But what wasn't personal, what was immensely personal, was transcended everything, Lynette, was
Mhm.
the support and the care I got and the permission to manage that and to navigate through it. And I'll never forget. And I always want to be in a leadership position to support that and care for the people around me that way as life happens to us.
Yeah.
Hi, Lynette. Great to catch up with you. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Lauren. How are you?
Just come back from some big workout or something extravagant there? Or,
No, actually, I just got off of a spotlight with this company that I'm helping go Google. So we just spent an hour answering a bunch of questions about the future of better work. Hashtag better work.
I love it. They're in for a treat. When you take these organizations, and I know you've done it with quite a few, and introduce them to the power of Hangouts, and large group transparency and openness, it really changes the company. So good for them and good for you. Hey, I'd like to kick off a session that's quite personal, and I've been giving some thought to this, and just because of some circumstances around people I really care about and what they've gone through recently. And I want to talk about our humanness at work, and I want to talk about the role of leadership and organizations in supporting the fact that work and life is so integrated right now and how we navigate it. And I wanted to get your thoughts on it and to share it with our audience. And I want to kick it off with a story around when I was with ATB Financial, and Calgary had these horrible floods that went through not just Calgary, but southern Alberta. And we had a lot of our team members that had lost their homes. Right? The floods were so big, and the mudslides, and houses were, water destroys so much, as you know, right? These are real disasters. And so so we supported our team members. We just sort of said, look, long as we'll find a way to look after our customers and each other, but you're first. You have to look after yourself first, and let's look after each other. And we did a bunch of things, but one of the things is that we just allowed people to self-organize and to get themselves together to help. So one team actually got blue T-shirts and rented a bus, and on their work time, with full total support from the CEO right down through, they drove to this one community that was really devastated, and they were there to help. They were just digging, because you just had to help people dig out. And there was a woman who was sitting on her front steps, and when the bus pulled up, she just burst out crying. And she didn't know she just felt helpless. They were just, and she was working for another institution, and they made her take all this time off to do this. They made her take and give up her entire personal vacation to do it.
Wow.
And there was no support, right? And I was thinking, wow, what kind of organization would just say, well, and there've been times in my life when people have told me, that they wanted to go for a funeral, and there's a rule, if it's not so many distance from your family, that you only get 2 days. And who the hell says that grieving should take place around a funeral in 2 days, and then we're going to dock you?
Mm-hmm.
And I began to think about, how do you think we should, how do we deal with each other's humanity? And yeah, I know we got a business to run, and I know there's for profit businesses, but what's the balance and the decency here? And I just wanted to get your thoughts and reaction to it. And what would you expect from an organization and from your colleagues, if you were going through a situation like that?
Yeah, oh God, so much is going through my mind. First of all, as I go down this path of, the transformation efforts in other organizations, I often get told, when I tell stories about working at ATB, I often get told that ATB was a bit of a unicorn, Lynette.
Yeah.
Right? And I think to myself, God, what? So we're going to use that as an excuse to not do the right thing? So we can't do that because, ATB was a unicorn. You were just lucky to, have a great culture to be able to do the things that you were going to do. It was already kind of there. I'm like, yeah, no, it wasn't. So I think for me, I think it's just that old school thinking and lack of abundant mindset, as you would probably refer to it as. It's just, for me, it's like, I think you need to recognize the fact that everybody just needs some time to just have somebody listen to them and to empathize with them. And I think that's not a unicorn situation. I think that we've got to recognize the fact that, as you said, our personal lives are blending more and more with our professional lives. And therefore, we really need to take into account that, people need to be supported and I guess just sort of empathized with.
I'm so happy you said the unicorn thing. I'm so, that the whole vlog is worth it for that, because that is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, organizations are comprised of human beings that have the capability to outline how we support each other and care for each other, because we're all going to go through it.
Yeah.
There's nobody immune from it. And I remember when my dad was dying, I was the CEO of a company in the Seattle area, and Dad was in the palliative care unit in Edmonton. And I wanted to be there so badly when he died. I wanted to be with him. I didn't, and I hated being away. And I talked to the chairman of our board, and maybe people can say, Lorne, you were privileged, you were the CEO, but honest to God, he just said, look, I don't care how much time you need to take. You figure it out, you go do it, and I'll support you completely. You just need to go and be with them. And I did everything I could to make sure I was still running the business properly. I was on the phone a lot and all kinds of other things. I asked my team just rallied around me. They just said, look, listen, we're going to care for you to make sure that we're stepping up and picking it up. And I think I went back to Edmonton 15, 20 times. One time I flew, I spent better part of the week there. I got home on Saturday and the doctor called me and said, I think he's gone. And so I literally drove up to Vancouver so I could get back in a hurry. I got back there. When I got there, he's sitting up eating ice cream, or he's sitting up in his bed. He goes, what the hell are you doing back here? Anyway, it was like he was Lazarus, right? But anyway, the point was that I felt like I was supported there. I felt like I could be my human self. And I don't want to be maudlin and, in my relationship, around, the dealing with something like that is very personal. But what wasn't personal, what was immensely personal, was transcended everything, Lynette, was the support and the care I got and the permission to manage that and to navigate through it. And I'll never forget. And I always want to be in a leadership position to support that and care for the people around me that way as life happens to us.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's such a simple thing. It's something that we were always told, like even when I was like little, my mom, treat others like you'd want to be treated yourself. Like it's such a common and obvious thing. But what ends up happening, I think that a lot of the time we're at work and we've got lots going on and we've got, things happening, and potentially what could be happening is that I'm under my own stresses, and now this person has an immense amount of stress. And so that stress could almost sometimes put more stress on yourself as well, which I think causes sometimes not always the best reaction. So I think that people need to understand that there's moments when people, like your story, where you just really needed the time. I mean, you and I went through this for the past couple of weeks. We haven't recorded some vlogs. We have our regular schedule of vlogs. Yeah. But I just needed a week and a half. I woke up one day, a bunch of stuff was going on in my world, and I just thought,
can't do it.
Something's got to give. And if I don't do something and ask for just some reprieve here for the next couple of weeks or a week and a half, I think it was, I'm going to burst. And thank God I felt that way, and at least I knew I had a relationship with you, especially, and so that I could just say, hey, listen, like I just need to take the next week off. And then the following week, I still wasn't done. I still needed to then, now that I was sort of recovering from the stressful part of it, and then I actually put an action item into place. And so then I was like, I still needed the time. So,
Yeah.
the flexibility and the adaptability, and now, now we're catching up with our blogging, and which is great. But I would not have performed at my optimum if I would have just said to myself, which is typical of me. Usually I don't really admit to defeat. I'm like, oh yeah, just keep going. People have said like, oh wow, if that was me, I would have been in the fetal position. I usually just keep trucking along like nothing's going on, but I couldn't. And so I would not have been my best self uh, over the past couple of weeks had I would have just forged forward.
You
And I think
know,
that's what people
yeah.
recognize is, there's, maybe it's not, martyring is not the right word, but to just recognize in yourself when you just need the time, and then just genuinely ask for the time. And I think that people will respond accordingly when you're just genuinely and authentically asking for that moment.
I think that is a beautiful way to describe it. And I think that's exactly what we need to do. I think we need to, we don't need to we all have our own challenges around living. And I don't think we're not asking for people to, give up more privacy than they're entitled to, of course. But the idea of being genuine and just saying, look, I just need some time. I can't be at my best self right now. And then I think we need the compassion on the other side to go, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. If it's not, by the grace of God, one day it's going to be my turn. And right now it's yours. And we're there for each other and we can help each other. And I think I always just troubled me that someone would call up the human resource department. First, it's that horrible position to put the HR department in.
Yeah.
Say, how much time do I have before I get docked?
God.
And I go,
Yeah.
really? Is that, and I think you could see, someone goes and says, well, so-and-so, I don't think they should be given a week to go to their third cousin's funeral or whatever. And then let's make a rule that you've got to at least be one person removed, and, they've got to, or whatever stupid rule that came out because someone decided they needed to have some control, or probably some one-off incident that happened that someone, violated some trust somewhere down the road. And so this legacy stupidity goes on. Anyway, I'm kind of getting on my soapbox a little bit because I feel so passionate about caring for each other and being in an environment where we can show up and be our real selves,
Mm-hmm.
to do our best, which means to accept that we're not perfect human beings, and that we, and in your career, you go from infants, for a lot of us do, not everybody, but you go from that to elder parents and everything in between. For most of us, everything, it's all that shit in between. And we ought to be able to make our best contributions and work with people that love and care for us and help us navigate through those times. At the same time, it should be okay for us to be vulnerable and say, hey, I just can't be at my best right now. I need
Exactly. So yeah, and to add on to that, so, sort of be vulnerable and ask for the time, recognize that when you're going to need the time, but also don't feel guilty about it afterwards.
Yeah. And apologize for it and say, I think you should be appreciative, but not, we're human beings. It's not like you should go feel guilty and go, I'm going to go kill myself, stab myself 42 times because shit happened in my life. That's just, I agree with you. That's a very helpful comment. Anyway, I guess what we're saying to people, Lynette,
so what are the takeaways?
What would we wrap up with? A couple of things. What would you wrap up with?
I think for me is, I think just, for me, I would just be a little more humble in the way that you're going through your life, right? And to just sort of don't play that sort of I am strong kind of role all the time, if that's typically who you are, and genuinely just ask for help. And I think that people will respond accordingly. What about you?
I agree. And I think if you're a leader, then you've got an obligation to create a condition and environment for people to be able to come and tell you. And that also you're a model too. And, you're not a perfect human being. You don't have to, just because you've got a big title or even a little title or whatever the hell it is, that doesn't mean that somehow that you're immune from, as well. So, you've got to be a model for that as well. It's being strong is being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think we have to cross that Rubicon a little bit, because there's been some time a historical thing around being strong is, like you say, I have to muscle my way through everything to the point where, frankly, it's disingenuous and it's harmful.
And
So,
then your best.
yeah. Well, thank you for, this
Yeah.
is kind of one of our more just laying it out there kind of conversations, and I just really appreciate being able to talk to you about it. I just wanted to get it off my chest. It was been on my mind for some time.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Lauren. Great
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Thanks. See you next time.
Okay,
Bye.
take care. Take care.